What does love look like when your entire budget is just $100? Not for a week, not for a fancy dinner, for everything. Every coffee, every bus ride, every flower, every whispered promise. Now imagine trying to do that in a place where average monthly salaries hover below $150, and traditional values still shape the rules of courtship. Welcome to Tajikistan, a country few can find on the map, yet one that holds some of the deepest stories of resilience, beauty, and yes, love. We're about to explore what it's really like to date in one of the poorest yet most breathtaking countries in Central Asia. A land where love doesn't come wrapped in luxury, but in eye contact, in shared bread, in conversations over candlelight during frequent power outages. Where romance isn't just a feeling, it's a quiet defiance against hardship. Can you build a connection with someone when you only have $100 in your pocket? Is love in Tajikistan about grand gestures or simple survival? And how does romance unfold when modern apps and ancient customs collide? These are the questions we're setting out to answer. Tajikistan is a country shaped by mountains and memories. Nearly 93% of its landscape is mountainous, and its history is just as rugged. A former Soviet republic, independent only since 1991, it's a place still healing from civil war, economic hardship, and a painful diaspora. Many of its men leave the country to work abroad, sending money back home, leaving behind a generation of women navigating love in their own quiet strength. But that's only half the story, because even here, in dusty villages and buzzing bazaars, in the silence of high-altitude valleys and the noise of Soviet-era apartment blocks, love blooms. Not in extravagance, but in resilience. Not in apps, but in glances exchanged across market stalls. So we've come to ask, what happens when you give yourself a tiny budget and an open heart? In this video, we'll walk through city streets, meet young couples, dive into the complexities of dating customs, and even attempt a few dates of our own. No tricks, no hidden help, just $100, a camera, and the curiosity to understand how love works when it's stripped down to its essence. Let's begin. Tajikistan doesn't scream for attention. It doesn't flash neon lights or promise luxury escapes on Instagram. But those who visit often say the same thing. They never expected to fall in love with it. Tucked between Afghanistan, China, Uzbekistan, and Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan is the kind of place that makes you question why you've never heard more about it. It's stunning, wild, and humbling. Over 90% of its terrain is mountains, part of the majestic Pamir Range, often called the roof of the world. These mountains cradle not only villages but stories, each one carved into rock and ice over centuries. Yet life here is anything but easy. Tajikistan is one of the poorest countries in Central Asia. After gaining independence in 1991 following the collapse of the Soviet Union, it plunged into a 5-year civil war that scarred its people and economy. Today, many of its citizens live on less than $3 a day. Jobs are scarce, especially for young men, and nearly half the male workforce migrates seasonally to Russia in search of work. This economic reality shapes everything, including how people fall in love. In the capital, Dushanbe, the modern world slowly peeks through Soviet-style buildings. There are leafy boulevards, cafes buzzing with laughter, and even universities where young people dream beyond borders. But beyond the city, time seems to pause. In rural areas, traditional life persists, with arranged marriages, gender roles, and close-knit communities playing central roles in daily life. Most families in these regions still rely on the agricultural calendar. Weddings are massive community affairs, often arranged with the help of relatives. Dowries are still common. A daughter's marriage can mean financial security or, conversely, added debt. And yet, these customs aren't seen as burdens. They're part of the rhythm of life, deeply respected and rarely questioned. It's this fusion of modernity and tradition that makes dating in Tajikistan so layered and compelling. In cities, some young people secretly swipe through dating apps like Tinder or Mamba, chatting late at night and arranging covert meetups. But in the villages, love often starts with a glance at a wedding, a cousin's introduction, or a shared bucket at the community well. It's subtle, slow, and steeped in cultural nuance. Love here is not performative. It's not a flashy Instagram story or a grand public proposal. It's the girl who waits an extra 10 minutes at the market just to catch a glimpse of the boy who delivers bread. It's the boy who memorizes her walk, not her selfie angle. It's quiet, sometimes unspoken, but it's real. And while Tajikistan struggles economically, it overflows with emotional richness. Hospitality is sacred. Families welcome strangers with warm bread, hot tea, and the kind of sincerity that feels rare in the modern world. People may have little, but they give much. Kindness here is currency, and respect is love's language. So before we dive into the mechanics of dating here, we need to understand the terrain, not just the mountains, but the hearts shaped by them. Tajikistan isn't just a setting, it's a character in the story of love. And like the best characters, it's full of contradictions. Proud yet humble, weathered yet hopeful, poor in wealth yet rich in spirit. Now that you've met the land, it's time to meet its people and understand how love begins, grows, and survives in one of the world's most beautiful and overlooked places. In Tajikistan, love often starts not with a spark, but with a plan. Here, tradition isn't just a guideline, it's the framework through which many relationships are built. In rural areas especially, love doesn't always come before marriage. Instead, marriage is the beginning, and love is something you grow into. Many Tajik marriages are still arranged, though the word arranged carries different shades here. It's not always the dramatic, "you must marry this person" scenario. Often it begins with a quiet suggestion. A mother noticing a polite young man at a wedding, or an aunt who knows a family whose daughter is just the right age. If both families agree and the pair is willing, the marriage moves forward, sometimes with only a few meetings beforehand. And yet, there's care in the process. Families don't throw two people together randomly. Character, work ethic, and family reputation all matter. Compatibility is not measured by chemistry, but by values, lifestyle, and background. It's matchmaking guided by history, not algorithms. Dowries are still common and can be a source of stress or pride. A groom's family is often expected to provide gifts, property, or money, symbolic gestures of commitment and readiness. In return, the bride's family may prepare furniture, clothing, or even livestock. The exchange is less about transaction and more about tradition, though for poorer families, it can stretch finances thin. And the wedding? It's not just an event. It's a public declaration of unity. Guests pour in from neighboring villages. Entire communities celebrate. There's music, dancing, mountains of food, and days of festivities. Everyone participates, not just out of obligation, but out of joy. A wedding is a binding of two families, not just two individuals. Yet behind the festivities lie quiet pressures. For many women, especially in conservative areas, the timeline for marriage is narrow. By their early 20s, they're expected to be wed. Unmarried women past 25 may face whispers, judgment, or pity. It's not just a personal milestone, it's a social one. Take Nigora, a 24-year-old woman from a small town near Kulab. She's bright, ambitious, and dreams of becoming a teacher. But her mother worries. Soon, her mother says, people will ask what's wrong with her. Nigora smiles politely, but confides later that she feels the weight of two futures. One she wants to build, and one she's expected to live. For men, too, the pressure is real. Many feel they cannot marry until they've worked abroad and saved enough to afford the dowry and a home. This delays marriages, sometimes for years, and creates a ripple effect. In their absence, young women are left waiting. Entire communities adapt to the rhythms of migration. And in this gap, loneliness grows, not just the kind that comes from being single, but from feeling forgotten in a culture that measures worth through marital status. Some find ways to bend tradition without breaking it. Secret meetings, love letters, quiet conversations in alleyways. There's a thrill in the forbidden, a sweetness in small acts of rebellion. But if discovered, these moments can lead to harsh consequences, for women especially. Reputation is everything. A girl seen alone with a boy may be assumed impure and considered unfit for marriage, regardless of the truth. Honor, though a beautiful concept in theory, can be a prison in practice. Entire futures can be decided by a single rumor. And yet, despite all this, There is a tenderness in traditional Tajik love stories. There's the couple who never touched hands before their wedding day, but now raise children with laughter and deep understanding. There's the husband who writes poetry for his wife every Friday, and the wife who walks an hour to bring him fresh bread at work. These are not grand gestures, but enduring ones, built not on butterflies, but on bricks. For many Tajiks, tradition doesn't mean a lack of love. It means love grows slowly, like a garden tended over years. It may not start with fire, but it often ends with warmth. And yet, as the world shifts and internet signals reach even the most remote valleys, things are beginning to change. Young people want more agency. They still value tradition, but they want choice too. They want to be heard. This quiet evolution is where old meets new, and it's happening right now across living rooms, village roads, and phone screens. The question is no longer, will you marry who your family chooses? But can we create something that honors the past and feels right for our future? In Tajikistan, love has long followed a familiar script. But in the cities, and even in some villages with a decent Wi-Fi signal, that script is being rewritten, one swipe at a time. Dating apps like Tinder, Mamba, and Telegram chat groups are quietly reshaping how young Tajiks connect. They're not mainstream like in the West, but they're growing, stealthily, hesitantly, and often behind locked screens. Because in a society that values modesty and tradition, digital love is both thrilling and taboo. Urban youth are leading the charge. In Dushanbe, university students scroll through profiles between lectures. Emojis replace shy glances. Pickup lines compete with poetry. And while most bios are sparse, often just a name and age, the intent is clear. Curiosity, connection, and maybe even love. But this isn't just about technology. It's about rebellion, subtle and soft. For many young people, especially women, these apps offer something they've never had before: choice. They can talk, flirt, and even reject without parental oversight. That freedom, however small, is seismic. It's a shift from being chosen to choosing. Still, there's risk. Even in the capital, being seen on a dating app can tarnish a reputation. Screenshots circulate. Gossip spreads. For women in particular, the consequences of being too modern can be severe. Lost trust, strained family ties, or even social isolation. So they tread carefully. Pseudonyms are common. So are burner accounts and late-night chats deleted by morning. And while some use these apps for casual chats, others are looking for something real. Zahro, a 21-year-old medical student, says she met her boyfriend on Mamba. "We were both nervous," she laughs. "But we realized we wanted the same thing. Someone who understands our struggle. Someone who listens." Their relationship exists in a liminal space. Real to them, secret to everyone else. They meet in libraries, on campus, and sometimes walk the long way home just to talk without being noticed. They've even created their own code words to communicate through text, masking affection with academic-sounding phrases to avoid suspicion. For the Tajik diaspora, dating apps have opened new doors too. Many Tajiks working abroad use them to stay connected with people back home. Some relationships begin on opposite sides of the continent, united by language, culture, and longing. These digital romances offer a bridge across time zones and expectations. But while apps offer opportunity, they also create tension. Generational gaps are growing. Parents often see them as dangerous, tools that undermine family values. And with no cultural script for online dating, young people are navigating uncharted waters with little guidance. The apps themselves aren't designed for Tajik culture. They assume independence, privacy, and liberal social norms. But Tajik society is collective, private, and cautious. So users adapt. A woman may only show her eyes in her profile picture. A man might only message late at night, never during family hours. Every move is calculated. And yet, despite the secrecy and stress, one truth remains: the desire to be seen, to be known, and to be loved, on your own terms. And while Tajikistan may not be leading the digital dating revolution, it's carving out its own quiet version, one that blends whispers with Wi-Fi, poetry with profiles, and risk with reward. This is the new face of love, hidden in plain sight, evolving under pressure, and burning quietly behind every screen. So here's the question: what can $100 buy you in Tajikistan? In most of the world, $100 might get you dinner and a movie, if you're lucky. But here, that same bill can stretch across days, maybe even weeks. And that's exactly what we set out to test. With just $100 in our pocket, no credit cards, no backup cash, we wanted to see how far we could go in experiencing love in all its forms. Not just romantic dinners, but kindness, generosity, awkward silences, and unexpected connections. We started in Dushanbe, Tajikistan's modest yet charming capital. The city pulses with a relaxed rhythm. Old ladas buzzing past roadside tea houses, kids chasing kites in public squares, and students hanging out near fountains where they scroll through their phones with cautious curiosity. First date? A tea house near Rudaki Park. We met Laylo, a 22-year-old literature student who agreed to a chat over green tea and kurutab, a traditional bread and yogurt dish. The bill came to just $4, but the conversation was priceless. She talked about her dreams of becoming a novelist, how she hides her short stories in Google Docs titled study notes, and how she's never actually gone on a date before, not one labeled as such anyway. Laylo said something that stuck with us. Love here. It's not bought. It's borrowed. You borrow time, attention, patience, but not everyone can repay it. Next stop, a trip to the countryside, to a village where the idea of dating is still whispered rather than spoken. Here we spent just $10 on bus fare and shared plav, a beloved rice and meat dish, with a group of local 20-somethings gathered for a birthday. One of them, Farid, offered us a place to sleep for the night. In return, we helped his family gather apricots the next morning. Did romance blossom? Not in the Hollywood sense, but we were surrounded by laughter, hospitality, and stories. One girl showed us a secret phone gallery of romantic poems she'd written. Never shared, never spoken aloud. Another asked if we thought arranged marriages could still lead to love. We returned to the city with $60 left and a mission. Experience love through every lens. Friendship, flirtation, even heartbreak. A third encounter brought us to a university bookstore, where we bumped into Rustam, a 26-year-old artist. Over the next 2 days, we shared meals, visited a gallery, and talked about Tajik identity, lost traditions, and the difference between affection and performance. He told us he once courted a girl by painting her portrait in secret, a gift he never gave. We offered to pay for dinner on our last night, a humble spread of lamb kebabs and compote. It cost $8. He tried to stop us. Love isn't expensive here, he said, but it's also not cheap. You pay with trust. By the end of the week, we had $22 left and a pocket full of receipts that barely covered the emotional weight of what we'd experienced. Because in Tajikistan, love isn't a transaction. It's layered, quiet. It shows up in generosity from strangers, honesty from first-timers, and vulnerability from people who have little but still offer everything. And the deeper we looked, the more we realized that this journey wasn't about stretching money. It was about stretching comfort zones. It was about learning to read the silence between sentences, to respect slowness, to embrace the awkwardness of new connection. A woman we met at a small mountain bazaar said this: "In Tajikistan, love is not loud, it's loyal." And maybe that's the secret. Maybe in a world obsessed with fireworks, love here is more like a candle, steady, warm, and able to last through blackouts. We didn't just go on dates, we listened. We were challenged. We sat with families, we shared stories over soup, and in the process, we learned that $100 can take you surprisingly far. Love here isn't flashy, it's not packaged or polished, but it's real, and sometimes that's worth more than anything money can buy. Love in Tajikistan is beautiful, but it isn't easy. While $100 might buy a few meals and shared moments, the true cost of love here isn't in simony. It's measured in choices, sacrifices, and courage. Falling in love is only the beginning. The real challenge starts when feelings clash with tradition. Take Gulrukh, a 27-year-old nurse who fell for a fellow medical student. They shared late-night study sessions and whispered dreams until family expectations intervened. His parents wanted someone from their region. Her father had promised her to a cousin. They haven't spoken in over a year. It wasn't that we didn't love each other, she says. It was that love wasn't enough. In Tajikistan, marriage is a family alliance, a matter of honor and sometimes survival. Breaking from tradition comes at a cost. Reputation is fragile. Forgiveness is slow. For women, the price is even steeper. A woman seen as too independent risks exclusion from the marriage market. The line between confidence and rebellion is razor thin. Even education, while encouraged, can backfire if it makes suitors uneasy. Men face their own burdens. Many work abroad for years to afford marriage basics, a dowry, a home, a wedding. But the distance changes them. When they return, they often feel out of sync, speaking a different emotional language. There's no dating culture here. Relationships must be intentional. Every gesture carries weight. And yet, people still try, still hope. People still dream of love, not just duty. And sometimes, against all odds, they still leap. Tajikistan is at a cultural crossroads. For centuries, life followed paths set by elders. But quiet shifts are underway. In cities, couples are pushing boundaries, choosing partners based on connection, delaying marriage, even trying dating apps in secret. Romantic autonomy is growing, slowly, cautiously. But resistance remains. Elders fear that with fading traditions comes a loss of identity, that rituals, once loosened, can't be reclaimed. And their fears aren't unfounded. Globalization brings both opportunity and erosion. Still, some believe tradition and change can coexist, that love can be arranged or discovered, and both paths have value. What's certain is that Tajikistan is evolving. Each generation balances tradition and modernity with increasing care, because how a society loves is how it lives. And here, that love is being redefined in quiet, brave ways. So what does love mean in Tajikistan? It means sharing stories under apricot trees. It means navigating centuries of expectation with modern hope. It's honoring the past while daring to dream differently. In a place where $100 can stretch for days, but cultural rules stretch for lifetimes, love isn't just romance. It's a quiet rebellion. Sometimes it's sacrifice. Sometimes it's silence. And sometimes it's simply choosing to stay when leaving would be easier. In Tajikistan, love adapts, it endures, and in the most unexpected places, it still thrives. So if you ever find yourself in Tajikistan with nothing but an open heart and a few bills in your pocket, don't underestimate what you might find. And if you felt something watching this, a spark, a shift, a thought, hit that like button. Share this video and subscribe. We've got so many more untold stories waiting to be told.